really refreshing to actually have real evidence connecting these dots. The Minister for Emergency Preparedness, at a press conference in the last couple of days, asserted that what happened at Coots, the arrests at Coots, were directly related to the leadership here in Ottawa. And under questioning by the media, back down further again, and basically said, well, I'm just sort of figuring that out myself. That is not real evidence, that is not a real connection, and that is not a national security threat.
Déclaration des députés, statements by members. The Honourable Member for Kitchener Centre.
Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to rise in the House today to recognize a Better Tent City, an innovative and successful housing solution serving previously unsheltered neighbours of mine in Waterloo Region, consisting of 42 insulated cabins and an indoor warming space, kitchen, showers, and laundry. A Better Tent City is a safe and caring place born from the leadership of the late Ron Doyle, Jeff Wilmer, and Nadine Green, among others. Nadine, the site coordinator and whose compassion brings calm in times of crisis, feels particularly fitting to celebrate during Black History Month, as her leadership is one example of Black excellence in Waterloo Region. A Better Tent City is supported by so many, including the volunteers, staff, and board at St. Mary's Church and the Social Development Centre. In light of this incredible grassroots work, A Better Tent City recently received our community's highest honour, the Barn Raiser Award, for showing us what's possible when a group of people rally.
The Honourable Member for Dartmouth Cole Harbour.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, throughout this pandemic, the people of Dartmouth Cole Harbour have shown the very best that Canada has to offer. From embracing public health measures like staying the blazes home to mourning incredible tragedies together. We've been there for each other while keeping 6 feet apart. And like all Canadians, this pandemic has worn us down. We are so tired. But just as public health measures are easing, those who seek to harm our country and our democracy through conspiracy theories and misinformation are using this opportunity to sow discord. I always see the best in people, but the rise in hate is so high. Folks in our community, our neighbors, our friends are finding themselves caught up in this. And I know that this hate and this hostility is not at the heart of who we are. Madam Speaker, I ask that all Canadians be there for each other by speaking out against misinformation and standing up against hate. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Honourable Member for Niagara West.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I think I speak for most Canadians when I say that the last 2 years have been extremely difficult. At times like this, one would think that the leader of our country, the Prime Minister, would be there to unite Canadians. Unfortunately, that has not been the case. He's done the opposite. Don't take my word for it. His own Liberal MPs have said so. The Prime Minister chose to divide Canadians as a political strategy to win an election. He pitted one Canadian against the other for his own political gain. He called Canadians tired of mandates and restrictions a fringe minority with unacceptable views. He said they're extremists, misogynist, racist, and asked if these Canadians should be tolerated. This Prime Minister has fanned the flames of division to a point of a national crisis, and his solution is to divide Canadians further, to implement unprecedented and extreme government measures through the Emergencies Act. This is a crisis that he himself created. Madam Speaker, where does this Prime Minister's recklessness stop?
The Honourable Member for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today to speak about Black History Month, and I know I'm not the only one to do that this month, but it should be spoken about often, which is why this year's theme is February and Forever, celebrating Black history today and every day. We need to remember Black history is Canadian history, which at times has been for the worse, but over the years has become significantly for the better. Our communities are enriched by our Black neighbours and friends who take on many important roles. The Honourable Jean Augustine, who proposed the motion we recognize February as Black History Month, was the first Black woman elected to this House. Her election showed that this House could truly be a house for all Canadians. I want to take this time to recognize and thank a community leader in Aurora. Fiona Durant came to Canada as a young woman and established a small, successful local business. She also founded the Aurora Black Community Association. This is a dynamic, change-making group focused on uniting all the varied...
L'honorable député de Longueuil.
The Honourable Member for Longueuil-Saint-Hubert. Thank you, Madam Speaker. February is Black History Month. And at the Longueuil Municipal Council, barriers from the past have been broken, leaving more space for youth, women, and diversity. Therefore, I'd like to proudly congratulate 3 extraordinary women on their appointment to the Municipal Council. Reine Bombo-Alara is the first chair of the council from a diverse background. Afine Luala-Lika is the first Black woman on the executive committee. And Rolande Balma, who is 21 years old, the youngest woman ever elected in the history of Longueuil. The arrival of these 3 Black women on Longueuil's Municipal Council represents extraordinary progress and reflects the Quebec of today. Young people from a diverse background feel, thanks to this election, that political participation is possible.
Alfred Pellin.
The Honourable Member for Alfred Pellin. Madam Speaker, this is School Retention Week, and we need to encourage our youth. Despite the difficulties of the last few years, they retain a thirst for learning. And the teachers, support staff, and other people in our schools who are supporting our youth are also showing perseverance and resilience in helping our youth to succeed. The hard work of community organizations also makes a huge difference in the lives of youth who have a harder time. They are helping these students to find meaning in their school life and motivate them to continue staying in school. Last but not least, we must also thank parents who help their children every day, support them, and help them continue with their learning. We'd like to thank everyone who helps our youth to stay motivated in school. I would like to wish Happy School Retention Week to all.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, February is Black History Month, and I wanted to take this opportunity to recognize the work being undertaken by the Niagara Military Museum, which is located in my riding. In partnership with the Canadian War Museum, the volunteers of the Niagara Military Museum worked to develop an incredible Black military history collection, which was publicly unveiled in Niagara last February. The Canadian War Museum is now showcasing these educational panels here in Ottawa so more Canadians can learn about the important contributions Black Canadians made to the defence of Canada and our freedoms. Entitled A Community at War, the Military Service of Black Canadians of the Niagara Region, the exhibition highlights the experiences of 22 Black men and women from the Niagara Region and from southwestern Ontario who served their country in uniform from the American Revolution to present day. Their experiences offer insight into the broader experiences of Black Canadians and this country's military history, and I invite all Canadians to visit the War Museum to see this marvelous exhibit. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I recently had the pleasure of meeting with family doctors from the Fraser Northwest Division of Family Practice Society, who won the $100,000 grand prize for Canada's Vaccine Community Innovation Challenge. Their Physician on a Mission campaign amplified the voices of family doctors in Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, and beyond as trusted community members to encourage vaccinations using physicians' personal stories and expertise. Videos were produced in English, Cantonese, Korean, Farsi, and Arabic, with family doctors addressing common questions about COVID-19 vaccines, from helping new mothers to reminding us to get our second shot. This initiative has empowered Canadians to make informed decisions about their health and to protect each other. Congratulations to Dr. Yun and the Fraser Northwest Division of Family Practice Society, and thank you for your innovative and impactful work in keeping our communities healthy.
L'honorable député de Vaudreuil.
The Honourable Member for Vaudreuil-Soulanges.
1 year ago, the Gurdwara Guru Nanak Darbar opened its doors for the first time in the historic and beautiful town of Hudson. And since doing so, it has served as a sacred place of worship for those of the Sikh faith in my community of Vaudreuil-Soulanges. But it's also served as so much more. In keeping with the guiding principles of kindness, generosity, and community, it has also served as a place for those in need of all faiths to enjoy a free, warm, and healthy meal prepared by dedicated volunteers. It is also a rallying point for business owners and families to come together to help one another by donating truckloads of foods and supplies to neighboring churches and community groups during this incredibly difficult time. For this and so much more, I rise in this House on behalf of my entire community to congratulate Harjit Singh Bajwa, Sarvdeep Singh Bhatt, Lukpatrai Singh Dinza, Gurinder Singh Johal, and the entire team at the Gurdwara Guru Nanak Darbar Hudson for their hard work and generosity over the last year. May the years and decades ahead continue to bring peace, joy, and fulfillment. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Cypress Hills Grassland.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in the House, and what else but to address this government's egregious overstep in invoking of the Emergencies Act. I know I've had hundreds of constituents contact me, sincerely alarmed with the implications of this Prime Minister's draconian overstep. Because this is the same Prime Minister who stated that he admired China's dictatorship. But even Chinese state media stated that while Hong Kong invoked the national security law against violent petrol bomb throwing mobs, they're shocked to see how the Canadian Prime Minister has cracked down on peaceful, pro-freedom protesters. Mr. Speaker, the world is watching this critical moment in our nation's capital, and they are rightly alarmed to see the leader of a G7 country, a country that has long been a beacon of freedom, come down on peaceful protesters with a sledgehammer. It is absolutely shameful, and I'm calling on the Prime Minister to lay aside his pride, listen to the very real concerns of the Canadian people, follow the science, and drop the mandates. That is the clearest path forward to resolving these tensions and healing our divided and wounded nation.
L'honorable député d'Hochelaga.
The Honourable Member for Hochelaga. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The challenges of the pandemic we've been experiencing since 2020 don't spare anyone, including youth. For many young Quebecers and Canadians, continuing in school is a huge challenge, and the current situation is not helping, whether it be due to learning difficulties, family situation, physical or mental health. We need to ensure that our children's success is at the very heart of our responsibilities as a government and society. We must focus on their success and stay engaged and mobilized for them this week and throughout the year. I'd like to thank all of the teachers, educators, support staff, and others who every day help youth find meaning in their school career. This week, School Retention Week, my team and I have supported teachers and school staff in my riding by offering them cookie baskets that were carefully collected by the Cuisine Collective in the region to thank them for the incredible work they do every day. Thank you.
Member for Kenora.
Mr. Speaker, the illegal blockades must come to an end, and law enforcement has the resources it needs to do that without the government invoking the Emergencies Act. The Prime Minister himself has said that this act should not be the first, second, or third response, but he has been unable to tell us what his first, second, and third responses were. Mr. Speaker, after taking no action, the Prime Minister is now moving to the most extreme action. And we have seen crisis in this country before, many times in many different situations where the Emergencies Act in its current form was not utilized. Mr. Speaker, this is an unprecedented overreach, and it is a result of a failure in leadership on the part of the Prime Minister. Parliament must reverse this decision immediately.
The Honourable Member for Montmagny-Liselet, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Mr. Speaker, I am very pleased to rise to address the House today. There are 58 municipalities in my riding, so there are many opportunities to celebrate. And many of these municipalities have reached a venerable old age. Over time, generations of citizens work together to create communities that reflect their spirit. In the current pandemic, many committees have redoubled their efforts to find alternative ways to celebrate. And I would like to pay tribute to them. First of all, Montmagny, la Seigneurie de la Rivière du Sud are turning 375. Berthier-sur-Mer and Cap Saint-Ignace, as well as Rivière-Ouelle, are turning 350. Sainte-Hélène, Kamouraska, and Sainte-Anne-de-la-Pocatière, 175. Saint-Pamphile, 150. And Saint-Joseph de Kamouraska, 100 years old. In the coming weeks, I will visit them and bring them a souvenir package and pay tribute to all the citizens of these municipalities, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Hull.
The honourable member for Hull-Elmer. Mr. Speaker, Canada's women's hockey team won a gold medal. But I'd like to talk about young sports people here in the Outaouais region. The Intrepid team is made up of 17 of our best players and has qualified for Quebec's international Pee-wee tournament. To get that prestigious invitation, the team had to be ranked among the 14 best teams in the elite hockey team of Quebec, League of Quebec, rather. This team confronted the challenge, and all of the players are very proud to represent the Outaouais region at the tournament in May. The excellence of the Olympic team is something that inspires all Canadians. But ultimately, their victory represents years of hard work. It's not just a coincidence. The Intrepid are already on the right path. Go, Intrepid, go.
Member for Hamilton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, for 3 weeks, the city of Ottawa and border crossings across the country have been under siege by blockades and occupations. People in Ottawa have been criminally harassed, assaulted, and are afraid to leave their homes. The declaration of a public order emergency is the result of the failure of all levels of government failing to keep the public safe. Canadians are rightly concerned about these unprecedented measures being enacted and about the precedent it will set. I am too. It will be critical over the course of the debate over these next few days for the government to clearly explain why they believe the conditions to enact this emergency order have been met. There is no time for talking points, spin, or partisan attacks. Canadians deserve honest answers, accurate information, and clear reasoning. Conversely, the opposition has an important role to hold the government to account, to ask serious questions, and refrain from overheated rhetoric. Mr. Speaker, today marks an important moment in our history, and there will be much work to do in these weeks, months, and years to come. We must work to rebuild trust in our institutions, and that work must begin now.
L'honorable député de Manicouagan.
The honourable member for Manicouagan.
Monsieur le Président, il me fait grand plaisir de...
Mr. Speaker, I am very pleased today to state that the island of Anticosti has become a candidate to UNESCO's World Heritage Site list. The island is a jewel of the North Coast, Quebec, and the world. It is magnificent and unique. It has natural wealth, but also a very welcoming population. This historical announcement is celebrated by the population of the island. It is the result of a great deal of work. Mr. Speaker, from the very beginnings of the project, and right up until this announcement, I worked closely with elected officials, organizations, and people, and I supported the project every time that they needed me. I will continue to do so until Anticosti is celebrated as it deserves throughout the world. Together, we will succeed. Congratulations to everyone who lives on the island. You show that ambition and hard work can lead to major achievements. You show that by working together, we are capable of getting onto the UNESCO World Heritage List. Thank you.
The honourable member for North Okanagan, Shuswap.
Mr. Speaker, we are debating an Emergencies Act because of the political crisis of the Prime Minister's own making. A political crisis here in Ottawa because of his failure to act sooner. But there is another crisis building across our country that he and his government have failed to act on. Canadians are seeing the rising cost of living impacting them in their homes, in their backyards, in my riding of North Okanagan, Shuswap, and across the country. Groceries will cost families $1,000 more this year. Energy prices have reached record levels, and rent rates are skyrocketing. Constituents have contacted me concerned about house prices going up 35 to 45%, concerned that young families can't afford their own homes. Seniors on fixed incomes cannot keep up with the inflation now pegged at 5.1%, the highest rate in 30 years. The Prime Minister and his government have failed to act on the cost of living crisis and have now created another crisis as a diversion. This is shameful. Canadians deserve better.
The honourable member for Ottawa Centre.
Thank you, Speaker. I rise in the House to honour my late friend Richard Patton, who dutifully served our community of Ottawa Centre as the Member of Provincial Parliament from 1987 to 1990 and from 1995 to 2007. During this time, he also served as Minister of Government Services and Minister of Correctional Services in Ontario. Speaker, after he retired from politics and as I succeeded him as the MPP, Richard gave me a note which read, "Remember, all of this belongs to the people." This sentiment captures the essence of Richard's brand of public service. He was your neighbour who was also your elected representative. Whether it was helping to save Ottawa's Aberdeen Pavilion, successfully fighting to keep Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario's heart surgery unit in Ottawa, or championing legislation to help people with severe mental illness, Richard Patton's legacy in Ottawa Centre will be felt forever. Speaker, as Richard bravely fought cancer, he never missed a day at the legislature or stepped away from many of his community-building activities. He died on December 30th of last year. Thank you to his wife, Penny, for sharing Richard with our community. Richard, Ottawa Centre will forever be a better place because of you. Thank you.
Oral questions. Question orale. L'honorable The honourable member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Mr. Speaker, as a Canadian today, I'm disappointed. This morning, the Prime Minister finally deigned to speak to the House of Commons about his decision to run roughshod over Canadian democracy by invoking the Emergencies Act all across Canada. He had a unique opportunity to justify his resorting to this extreme legislation to solve the crisis that he himself created. He failed. He failed to show that this legislation was necessary in the circumstances. But my question is, why is this government using such radical legislation just to protect the Prime Minister's own leadership? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this siege and the blockades are causing significant damage to our economy. The international community needs to see Canada as a safe place to invest and do business. The obstruction of the Ambassador Bridge interrupted trade worth $390 million a day. Those costs are real. They threaten both big and small businesses, and that is why we must take action. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Mr. Speaker, I think the Finance Minister should update her talking points. There is no longer any blockade in Windsor. That's over. We don't need the Emergencies Act there. It has been repeatedly said in the media that foreign groups are supporting the demonstrators in Ottawa, and an intelligence expert stated that there was no evidence to support that allegation. Not even any suspicious transactions. Why? To justify, is the Prime Minister basing his decision on facts that don't even exist according to his own experts? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, business leaders in Canada know that these illegal blockades cannot go on, and they supported the necessary action our government has taken. Goldie Heyer, president of the Canada Business Council, said this week, we salute this decision as a step towards bringing the illegal blockades to an end all across the country and respect for the rule of law. That's precisely what we're doing, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Mr. Speaker, I would repeat to her, there are no longer any blockades at the borders. Those have been resolved without the Emergencies Act. That's the reality. The Emergencies Act is a first. This is the first time it's been invoked. The War Measures Act was only used 3 times for the World War I, World War II, and the October crisis. Last week, the Prime Minister said there was no need for further measures, and then all of a sudden on Monday, he invoked the Emergencies Act. Bang. Can the government say what happened between Friday and Monday for the Prime Minister to flip-flop in such a short period of time? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, as we did during the NAFTA negotiations, our government will always do what is needed to protect our workers and the national interest. We defended Canada during the NAFTA negotiations, and now we're defending Canada, defending Canadians against these illegal blockades and occupation. That's what we must do, and that is what we will keep doing.
Surrey White Rock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister and the Emergency Preparedness Minister have repeatedly stated that foreign extremist financing is behind Canadian protests. At Public Safety Committee last week, Deputy Director of Intelligence for FinTrack, Barry McKillop, stated that there is no evidence to back up these claims. In fact, he stated, quote, there has not been a spike in suspicious transactions related to the protest, end quote. Why is the Prime Minister offside with Canada's national security experts?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I spoke yesterday with the head of FinTrack, and we are in close touch with that very important organization. The reality, the reality, Mr. Speaker, is that FinTrack lacked the necessary authorities to oversee the new world of cryptocurrency and crowdsourcing and payment platforms. With these measures, Mr. Speaker, we have enhanced the authorities of FinTrack, and that is allowing us to stop the illegal funding of these illegal blockades.
Honourable Member for South Surrey White Rock.
Mr. Speaker, this morning the Prime Minister contradicted two of his ministers who had stated that the application of the Emergency Measures Act would be geographically located. The PM said it would apply to all of Canada. All the border crossings in BC, Alberta, Manitoba, and Ontario have been cleared. The majority of premiers clearly say this government overreach is interfering in their jurisdictions. When will the Prime Minister revoke this reckless decision and begin rebuilding the trust of Canadians?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
You know, Mr. Speaker, once upon a time, the Conservative Party was a responsible party that believed in defending the national economic interest. I know one Conservative minister who served in such a government, Perrin Beattie, who created the Emergencies Act. Mr. Beattie said this week that when he brought in the Emergencies Act, he knew that there would inevitably be future crises. I spoke to Mr. Beattie today, and I told him about the work our government is doing to defend the Canadian economy.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, arresting participants in an illegal demonstration, you don't need the Emergencies Act for that. Cutting off social funding for an illegal activity, you don't need the Emergencies Act for that either. You don't need fines. Protecting strategic infrastructure doesn't need it either. For 21 days, the means to address this crisis have been there, but for 21 days, they haven't been used. Does the government realize that all that's been missing for the past 21 days is not the Emergencies Act, it's the government's leadership? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, business leaders from Quebec know that these illegal blockades cannot go on, and they have supported our government's action. The president of the Manufacturers and Exporters of Quebec said this week that manufacturers commend all action that will bring an end to blockages at our borders, and restore Canada's reputation as a reliable trading partner. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, it's no joke. It's gotten to the point that the SQ are here in Ottawa to save this government's skin. No one needed the Emergencies Act to resolve the blockades in Alberta, Manitoba, and BC. It wasn't needed to clear the Ambassador Bridge. The problem is that the core of this crisis is parked out front of the federal parliament. And why? Because the federal government has been in hiding for 3 weeks. Don't they realize that the situation would be less dangerous today if they had taken responsibility in the first place? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we did take responsibility. We are taking responsibility. And I really would ask all members to be responsible, to act responsibly on behalf of the Canadians who elected them, and take responsibility for democracy in Canada, to protect the national interest. That is what we're doing, and that is what we will keep doing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The story of this pandemic has been a story of solidarity, of Canadians taking care of one another. But Canadians are now wondering what the plan is to get out of this pandemic. We know that the plan to get out of this pandemic has to include a science-based approach, and it has to include an approach to invest in our healthcare system. So will the Prime Minister commit to making sure our healthcare system is never again in the fear of collapsing, and that we have an evidence-based plan for us to move past this pandemic?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our country is moving past this pandemic thanks to the hard work, thanks to the common sense of Canadians, thanks to the fact that 90% of Canadians are vaccinated, thanks to the heroism of our healthcare workers and our essential workers. For that reason, Mr. Speaker, Canada has one of the best outcomes in the Western world when it comes to mortality rates. Had we had the U.S. level of mortality, Mr. Speaker, an additional 66,000 Canadians would have died. We are getting past the pandemic thanks to Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South. The history of this pandemic is a story of solidarity, people standing together and taking care of one another. But people are frustrated. They're frustrated because the problems in their lives got worse during the pandemic. It's harder and harder to find affordable housing. It's harder and harder to make ends meet. Will the Prime Minister undertake to work together to solve those problems in people's lives? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Absolutely, Mr. Speaker. Our government has been working closely with municipalities and provinces and all Canadians to get a strong recovery from the COVID recession. And the good news is that Canada's GDP is now at the same level it was before COVID. We've recovered all the lost jobs. We still have some work to do, and we will do that together. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Etchemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister can't justify the use of the Emergencies Act. He can't explain which tool has been used, which steps were taken before this exceptional legislation was resorted to. He can't cover up his lack of leadership and his missing in action approach. I'd like him to enlighten us today. What tools and what steps were taken in the past weeks that failed so badly as to justify resorting to the Emergencies Act, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for her question. The government has taken a lot of concrete steps to deal with the illegal blockades. For example, we offered more resources to police forces, and the results yielded some progress, but at the same time, the blockades have caused a lot of frustration for police. That's one of the reasons why we introduced the Emergencies Act, and we will continue to provide all the tools police need. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Etchemins-Lévis. Mr. Speaker, Quebec and other provinces have the situation under control, and they did it without using the Emergencies Act, and they want nothing to do with that legislation. And they've been told that. But the Prime Minister has resorted to exceptional legislation without consulting anyone. Will he respect the will of those provinces who want nothing to do with this legislation, like Quebec? The Honourable Minister. The short answer is yes. We consulted with all the provinces and territories, and the way this Emergencies Act works is in cooperation with all provincial authorities. Our duty is to keep working with the provinces and territories and the municipalities and local police to put an end to these blockades. It's time for that now. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Richmond-Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, for 3 weeks, the Prime Minister has done nothing. He poured oil on the fire by provoking demonstrators and even went into hiding during this crisis. And now, in order to boost his own image, he's invoking the Emergencies Act. Unlike the Liberals, the provinces have taken action and are handling the situation responsibly and peacefully. Can the Prime Minister confirm that he won't use the emergency powers against Quebec and other provinces that are opposed to them? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, police forces have spent a lot of time and effort in trying to control the situation on the ground. For example, today, there's dialogue between police and the leaders of the blockade to encourage them to leave now. That would be the best, most effective solution. And we will continue to provide all the resources and tools the police need. The Honourable Member for Richmond-Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, the fact is that the provinces have handled these situations with strong leadership. That's what's lacking on the Liberal side. The Prime Minister is invoking the Emergencies Act to relieve himself of his responsibility for a crisis that he fueled himself by stigmatizing the demonstrators that were here in Ottawa. Imagine, this Prime Minister wants to manage the border between Ukraine and Russia when he can't even manage Wellington Street right here in front of Parliament. The Honourable Minister. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, with all due respect for my colleague, there is no justification for the illegal blockades. No justification whatsoever. The debate about the pandemic here in the House is very important, but the way the blockades are out there in the streets and at the borders, that's unacceptable. And that's why we introduced the Emergencies Act to help police put an end to the blockades. Thank you.
Middlesex, London. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And the lack of this action from this government has resulted in the reactive to ending the protests and blockades. In invoking the measures, the Emergencies Measures Act is the most reactive step taken to date. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are looking for hope and for a plan. This government decided to vote against having a plan. What proactive steps did the Prime Minister actually take prior to putting in into these restrictions? None.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And of course, we've been clear of being there every step of the way to support law enforcement as this situation continued. But I think it's important to reflect on the steps the Conservative Party took during this process, starting with the interim leader who said that I don't think that we should ask these people to go home, inferring that they should take this as a political opportunity. The member for Carleton, who's a leadership aspirant, saying that I stand with the illegal activity that is occurring outside, saying saying that he should keep the momentum going. And of course, this continues with the member for Yorkton Melville, Saskatoon Grassland, Cypress Hills Grassland. Again and again and again, they encourage that.
The honourable member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
And thank you very much. And perhaps the House Leader didn't understand. What I'm looking for is an answer to the plans and what this Prime Minister has actually done. Step one, he stigmatized, he traumatized, and he divided Canadians, just as this House Leader is doing today. Step two, he hid in the cottage. He did not react. When things were going on there, we did not hear from the Prime Minister. Step three, he whipped his caucus where every single member, with the exception of one, voted against a plan. Mr. Speaker, this leadership has failed. Period. Failed. What actions did the Prime Minister actually take prior to putting in these restrictions?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Every one of us walks through what is going on outside every day. We see the residents of Ottawa be terrorized by this illegal occupation that's occurring, and I want to ask the members opposite, will they stand today clearly, every single one of them, and say it's time to go home? Will they stand, every single one of them, to stop tweeting, stop encouraging, stop saying things like keep the momentum going, and instead ask for those folks who are outside to go home, to make sure that this illegal activity is not something that a party that's supposed to be standing for law and order stands with?
The honourable member for Avignon. Mr. Speaker, the National Assembly is unanimous. We don't want the Emergencies Act in Quebec. Even though the Prime Minister said his order in council would be localized, we see that it's localized to all of Canada. Not only does it apply to Quebec, it applies to Quebec infrastructure like hospitals, dams, and vaccination centres. But there's no crisis in Quebec. And in fact, we can even lend the SQ to Ontario. By what logic does the Prime Minister believe it necessary to suspend fundamental freedoms in Quebec just because he's lost control of the siege in Ottawa? The Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, that's not how the law works. This act was introduced with charter protections and all the measures in the order in council will apply in a way that's consistent with the charter. Thank you very much. The honourable member for Avignon. Mr. Speaker, the situation was resolved at the Ambassador Bridge, in Coutts, and in Manitoba. In Quebec, the situation was always under control. Only in Ottawa is the situation still going on, right in the Prime Minister's backyard. The national crisis is over. The use of the Emergencies Act is unwarranted. The curtailment of fundamental rights across Canada is unjustifiable. While the Prime Minister's opponents accuse him of being a dictator, which is, of course, completely untrue, does he not realize that he is now giving them arguments that that he's irresponsible? The Honourable Minister, Mr. Speaker, the facts are facts. The Bloc cannot start inventing things. The Act takes no powers away from the provinces. It's not being used to suspend the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. These are concrete steps we're taking to help Quebec if Quebec needs it. If Quebec doesn't need it, then they don't have to use it. And the Bloc should at least be honest about that instead of trying to make things up. The honourable member for Avignon. Mr. Speaker, Quebec doesn't need this and doesn't want this. Why use the Emergencies Act? Its stated purpose is to protect the values of the body politic and to guarantee the sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity of Canada. But none of this is under threat. According to the law, you have to be in a national emergency. That's not the case here. What does the law allow? It allows temporary extraordinary measures that may not be justifiable under normal circumstances. Mr. Speaker, Canada's territorial integrity is not threatened. There is no national crisis. So why use this unjustifiable law? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Because, Mr. Speaker, under the circumstances, it's necessary. We were very clear. These measures will not be applied where they're not needed. Quebecers should not be deprived of these important tools to provide for public safety and territorial integrity. and it refers to the possibility of blockades at l'école. There's a possibility of that kind of blockade this weekend in l'école. So it's temporary and it's charter consistent.
Earlier this week, I asked the finance minister what she was doing to control the skyrocketing cost of living. All she did was shift blame, and she avoided the question. Yesterday, we received the news that we were all dreading. Stats Canada says the Consumer Price Index rose 5.1% in January, the worst it's been in over 30 years. Mr. Speaker, paychecks no longer go as far as they used to, and Canadians are getting left far behind. So I will ask again, what specifically is the minister doing to get inflation under control?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, unlike the Conservatives, Canadians understand that inflation is a global phenomenon. And here are some numbers to back that up. The latest inflation number in Canada was 5.1%. In the US, it was 7.5%. In the UK, it is 5.5%. Our inflation is lower than the G7 average, which is 5.5, the G20 average, which is 6.1, and the OECD average of 6.5%. Canadians understand, Mr. Speaker. It's time for the Conservatives to understand as well.
Well, member for Abbotsford.
Well, for months now, this Liberal minister has been claiming that inflation was transitory. Nothing to see here, folks. And this week, Stats Canada proved the minister wrong. Inflation is up again at 5.1%, the highest it's been over 30 years. Prices for fish up 8%, for beef up 12%, bacon 19%. How does this minister expect Canadians to put food on the table? When is this government going to realize that it has lost complete control over inflation?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think it was actually the chairman of the Federal Reserve who used the term transitory to characterize inflation. But let me just point out yet again that the Conservatives continue to push a false narrative, frankly, about everything that is happening in Canada, and very much including the economy. The fact is the Canadian recovery is strong. Our GDP grew by 5.4% in the third quarter. That beat the US, Japan, the UK, and Australia. And I also want to point out that S&P and Moody's both reaffirmed our AAA credit rating this fall.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, 3 weeks ago, we were talking about inflation, and the finance minister said there's no problem. It's a global problem, and the IMF said Canada was doing well, and the GDP was going up. Wow, that's convincing, Mr. Speaker. Today, inflation is still rising. It's up to 5.1%. Beef is 13% more expensive, chicken 9%, gas 30%, housing 6%. That's the reality. The other reality is that this Liberal government is doing absolutely nothing about it. Could they just stop talking about the IMF and talk about the inflation that's hitting all Canadians as a real thing? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we will not be lectured by the Conservatives when it comes to helping Canadians, the most vulnerable Canadians, deal with the cost of living. We have implemented indexed benefits that have helped some 300,000 children through the child benefit to get out of poverty. We've also indexed the GIS to inflation, and that has helped over 900,000 seniors. That's what we've done, Mr. Speaker.
For Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is one of the biggest funders of oil and gas in the G20. A new study showed that last year alone, the government, through Export Development Canada, handed out $4.4 billion, earning Canada the worst possible climate score. That's despite repeated Liberal promises to phase out fossil fuel subsidies. We are in a climate emergency, and EDC is fueling the crisis. So why won't this government make EDC clean up its act, stop
Order. I'm sorry. That was a technical error where somebody had their microphone on. I'm going to ask the honourable member for Victoria to start from the top so that we can hear her full question. The honourable member for Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is one of the biggest funders of oil and gas in the G20. A new study showed that last year alone, the government, through Export Development Canada, handed out $4.4 billion, earning Canada the worst possible climate score. That's despite repeated Liberal promises to phase out fossil fuel subsidies. We are in a climate emergency, and EDC is fueling the crisis. So why won't the government make EDC clean up its act, stop giving billions to big oil and gas, and start standing up for Canadians?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for her question. In fact, G20 countries have committed to eliminate fossil fuel subsidies by 2025. We in Canada have committed to doing that by 2023, 2 years earlier than our G20 colleagues, Mr. Speaker. And on top of that, EDC has reduced its fossil fuel subsidies by more than $3 billion per year since 2018. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Timmins James Bay.
Earlier this week, I made an accusation against the Environment Minister that his government had held 370 backroom meetings with big oil in just 2 years. Mr. Speaker, I withdraw those comments, because it turns out they'd actually rolled out the red carpet for 1,224 meetings with big oil. That, my friends, is the definition of carbon captured. So it's no wonder that under this Prime Minister, Canada has fallen to the bottom of the G7 in terms of climate action. So to the Environment Minister, when's he going to stop acting as the head butler for the oil lobby and start standing up for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for his question. One of the highest carbon price in the world here in Canada. Regulations on methane pollution, 40% reduction by 2025. A cap on oil and gas emissions. These are all things our government has done to fight climate change and ensure we create good jobs and a prosperous future for all Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Northwest Territories.
Mr. Speaker, this Tuesday, 54 potential unmarked graves were found at Kisikusi First Nation. 3 weeks ago, Williams Lake First Nation announced that a survey had identified 93 potential unmarked graves on the site of the former St. Joseph Mission Residential School. Nearly a year ago, Canada was rocked by the discovery of 200 probable unmarked graves on the grounds of the former Kamloops Indian Residential School. Despite all this evidence, some still deny the actual legacy of residential schools and claim the number of unmarked graves is exaggerated. Mr. Speaker, I find this very troubling and unacceptable. Could the Minister of Crown and Indigenous Relations comment on what our government is doing to support the survivors of these residential schools?
Appel au règlement, s'il vous plaît.
Il n'y a pas de rappel au règlement s'il n'y a pas quelque chose de technique.
There's no point of orders unless there's a technical problem. I would just like to remind people that
there is accommodation that takes place in the chamber. Sometimes technically it doesn't always work. I believe we had everything tested that worked out fairly well. I believe the translation took place. La traduction prend place. Alors, si vous n'en...
I believe the translation took place. So if you can't hear the translation, please do signal that to me. Did anything cut out? Did the translation cut out? No? All right. So in that case, please show a little understanding.
So that we can all work together in the House. The Honourable Minister.
Last summer, in light of the devastating findings in Kamloops and Cowessess, our government announced an additional $329 million to support Indigenous communities in their search for loved ones robbed at such a young age, in their efforts to memorialize their loss and their quest for closure. Residential schools were a reality in this country for well over 150 years, and the effects are still felt painfully today. To the survivors who are speaking out, including my friend and member who spoke, as well as those who continue to suffer in silence, we believe you. Canada believes you.
The honourable member for Fort McMurray Cold Lake.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is out of step with Canadians. Canadians want and deserve open dialogue after 2 years of uncertainty. This should be about science, not political science, yet this Prime Minister would rather divide and stigmatize instead of giving people the certainty and hope they need. When will the Prime Minister stop doubling down on divisive rhetoric and commit publicly to a specific plan and timeline to end federal mandates and restrictions?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since day one of this pandemic, our government's focus has been the health and safety of our neighbours by following the latest science. The most recent data indicates that the Omicron wave is past its peak in Canada, which allows us to move towards a more long-term approach to managing COVID-19. We intend to follow the science, and we're working closely with experts like Dr. Tam and other public health officials to ensure that we continue to get through this pandemic together as best we possibly can, and that has been through vaccinations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's petulance led to the firing of Ottawa's first Black police chief during Black History Month. It's yet another example of the divisiveness fostered by this government. The Prime Minister's own finance minister stood on the Maidan during Ukraine's revolution. Canadians want foreign interference from the Prime Minister's jet-setting resetters to stop. When will the Prime Minister listen to the majority of freedom-loving Canadians and end the mandates?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I've had, and I'm sure all members have had, the opportunity to talk to people who come from countries that aren't free, that know what it means to have their freedoms restricted in ways that are not able to live or to share their thoughts or to protest in peaceful ways. But I'm sure, and I would hope that the member opposite would agree that what we're seeing outside, the terrorizing of residents, the harassing of homeless shelters, the inability for Ottawa citizens to continue their life has gone way too far. Please stop supporting these illegal activities and join with us so that our lives can begin to return to normal here.
The Honourable Member for Bow River.
Mr. Speaker, the science has changed. Canada's top officials, including Dr. Tam, have recommended a review of COVID policies. We're seeing countries around the world with lower vaccination rates than Canada dropping the restrictions. We're seeing provinces in our own country dropping the restrictions. Is the government going to stick to its word and follow the science? When will the mandates for Canadian travellers who are fully vaccinated, and when will the mandates be totally dropped for the testing for Canadian travellers to return?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, this transition, including this week's announcement, is possible because of a number of factors, which includes our high vaccination rates and the increasing availability of rapid tests and treatments. As we've said all along, Canada's border measures will remain flexible and adaptable, guided by science and prudence. I have a quote from my colleague opposite, and that is, it starts here. Everyone entering Canada by land as well as by air, irrespective of their vaccination status, will be required to take a rapid test or possibly a PCR test. Where's that from? That's from page 19 of the Conservatives' election platform. Remember this magazine? That one. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for New Brunswick Southwest.
Well, Mr. Speaker, life moves on and the government needs to move on with it. In December, the Liberals again imposed rigid COVID-19 testings on Canadians living in border communities who travel to the United States and return home, often within a day or within a few hours. The Liberals announced they would replace 72-hour PCR testing with a 24-hour rapid test. This doesn't help our border communities. 24-hour testing will continue to separate families and people in Canada's border towns. When will the Liberals allow Canadians to drive to the United States and come home in a single day without testing? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd remind the member again that you campaigned on testing as well, just like we did. Well, we're in a better position today than we were previously. This pandemic's not over yet. We all want this pandemic to be over, but it's not over yet. The Government of Canada will continue to assess the evolving situation here at home and globally, and while the members opposite continue to shout me down, it doesn't change the reality that this pandemic is not yet over. Thank you, members.
The Honourable Member for Joliette. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government gave itself the extraordinary power to freeze the bank accounts of people and businesses whose trucks are blocking downtown Ottawa right now. This power flows from the Emergencies Act, which has been in effect since February 14th. It's now the 17th of February. So my question is simple. How many bank accounts of the Ottawa occupiers have been frozen in the last 3 days? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the question. During a press conference today, I confirmed that we have started to use some of the tools available to us under the Emergencies Act, and that some accounts are now frozen. But due to operational security considerations, we cannot give the numbers today. We will provide the numbers as soon as we can. The Honourable Member for Joliette. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The truth is that the government has had the power to freeze the bank accounts of illegal demonstrators all along. It doesn't need these emergency measures. It can already do this under the Proceeds of Crime, Money Laundering, and Terrorist Financing Act. So, for the past 21 days, the federal government has been able to freeze the funds of the occupiers who are besieging Ottawa. So I'll repeat my question, because we in the House want to have the numbers. How many bank accounts were frozen to try to resolve the situation before it turned violent? Thank you. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, before the Emergencies Act, it was impossible to share all information between different levels of law enforcement, national, municipal, and provincial, and so on. Before the use of the Emergencies Act, we also couldn't force banks to provide information. So we have those tools now, and they are important. The Honourable Member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
23 Liberal MPs' requests to help Afghan refugees were ignored. Liberal ministers were briefed months before Kabul fell. These warnings were ignored. My letters to the Prime Minister and the ministers continue to be ignored. Afghan refugees write to this government every day pleading for help. They continue to be ignored. The Afghan crisis is another pattern of inaction and failures in leadership by this Liberal government. Why was an election plan and abandoning those that served Canada more important than the pleas of Afghan refugees?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, when that member first asked me a question about the success of our resettlements and efforts in Afghanistan, there was 3,800 Afghan refugees in Canada. Today, there are more than 7,700. In the past few weeks, Mr. Speaker, we have seen more than 460 arrive on 20 commercial flights. There are more flights arriving every week. We have made one of the most substantial commitments of any country in the world, not just on a per capita basis, but in terms of the raw number of human beings that we are going to welcome to give a second lease on life. Canadians should be proud of the effort that we're making, and we will not waver until we are successful in resettling all 40,000 Afghan refugees who will call Canada home.
The Honourable Member for Charles-Bourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, that doesn't explain why in December 2020, 23 Liberal MPs urged the Prime Minister to intervene and rescue Afghan nationals who had worked alongside Canadian troops during the Afghan conflict. And what happened 8 months later? The embassy closed, everyone left, and no one was rescued. Now they're saying 40,000 Afghans will come. But there was never any real attempt to help those Afghans while we were still there. Why were those people not taken care of when Liberal MPs asked the Prime Minister to do so? The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
The Honourable Member will appreciate that during the evacuation there was an emergency situation and we responded as quickly as was humanly possible. One of the reasons, Mr. Speaker, that I think the Honourable Member will appreciate is that we no longer had a military presence with the logistics capability of moving thousands and thousands of people on our own because we hadn't had a military presence there since 2014. Mr. Speaker, we worked with international partners to rescue thousands of people in the moments of the evacuation. I want to say thank you to my predecessor, now the Minister of Public Safety, for his efforts to resettle thousands of Afghan refugees, and I'm going to finish the job.
The Honourable Member for Bruce Grey Owen Sound.
Mr. Speaker, here's some of the damning testimony this week from retired generals about the Liberal government's failure during the fall of Kabul and the government's continued lack of leadership. Quote, "We were the first embassy to depart. That was very embarrassing." Quote, "When this crisis was unfolding right in front of our eyes, we had then, as we do now, urged the government to create an interdepartmental task force with one leader." Mr. Speaker, I'll ask the same question I asked last week. Will the Prime Minister assign one lead minister to solve this ongoing humanitarian aid crisis?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
I am the minister who's been appointed by the Prime Minister to lead this effort. We will collaborate with other ministers, including the Minister of Global Affairs, to help ensure that we are successful in partnering with the global community to see this mission succeed. I heard the members opposite heckling about the timing of the election when it came to the Afghan refugee resettlement effort, and I would point out how important that election was because we campaigned on a commitment to increase our level of ambition from 20,000 to 40,000. Their commitment on the other side, while they heckle me, was to welcome precisely 0 Afghan refugees. More than that, Mr. Speaker, they campaigned to end the government-assisted refugees program altogether, which has been responsible for saving thousands of lives.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Léonard Saint-Michel. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, this House started debate at second reading of a bill on, and some opposition members raised interesting points, although others seemed to be practicing their leadership speeches. Can the Minister of Heritage please tell us what C11 will do and what it will not do? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Well, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague for her extraordinary work and also for her wonderful question. The goal of the bill is to ensure that streaming companies invest in Canadian culture. That's it. That means that more Canadian artists, films, and series will be produced. And this will also help the next generation of Canadian creators. We tabled this bill because we're proud of our culture, proud of who we are, and proud of our identity, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for York Simcoe.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' Maine and Canada housing crisis has gotten out of control. It's the same situation across the country, including my community of York Simcoe. Working Canadians have been priced out of the housing market with no hope in sight. Now, home builders are stopping the construction of new homes. Liberal inflation has caused prices for material to skyrocket. That's right. There are too many ways for builders. There's no way for builders to know the fair market value of the home that won't be ready for at least 2 years. Why is this Liberal government making it even harder for Canadians to own a home? Great question.
The Honourable Minister for Housing.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives are not really serious about housing affordability, because every single time we've brought a measure here to enable Canadians to be able to afford a home, they've voted against it. The first-time homebuyer incentive, all the measures that we've brought. They even voted against imposing a vacancy tax on foreign-owned, non-resident properties. So they're not serious. They're full of rhetoric, and Canadians see through them. We will take additional measures to improve the first-time homebuyer incentive and turn more Canadian renters into homeowners. Let's see if they vote against that.
The Honourable Member for Yellowhead.
Mr. Speaker, $400 billion newly created cash has driven up consumer prices, and constituents in my riding, especially seniors, can't afford their basic necessities. In addition to rising consumer prices, electricity and heating bills are increasing due to the carbon tax, which is to increase again on April 1st. Mr. Speaker, when will this Liberal government finally quit making false promises and create a real economic plan for all Canadians, especially those who are struggling to meet their basic needs?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative MP began his question talking about government spending, which he seems to deem excessive. So I'd like to remind him that he, together with every single Conservative there, actually ran on an election platform proposing higher spending in 21-22 than the Liberals did. They proposed a $168 billion deficit. We proposed a $156 billion deficit. So could the party of flip-flops tell Canadians what they stand for today?
The honourable member for Brantford Brant.
Mr. Speaker, with more than 1.3 million unemployed Canadians, 200,000 jobs were lost in January alone. At the same time, our businesses are struggling to fill almost 1 million jobs. Canada's economic recovery is in jeopardy. Canada has the 5th worst job recovery in the G7. Hardworking people of Brantford Brant are asking, when will the Prime Minister stop putting his ideological agenda above prudent economic decisions?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it is a bit rich to hear the Conservatives talk about their support for Canadian workers and Canadian jobs. And let me just point out one moment of abject Conservative failure. And that was before Christmas, when we knew Omicron was coming. We knew Canadian workers and businesses needed support. But you know what? The Conservatives voted against that measure. And when it comes to jobs, Canada has recovered 101% of the jobs lost to COVID. U.S., just 87%, Mr. Speaker.
Full member for London West.
Mr. Speaker, some working low-income seniors in this country have had a challenging time making ends meet during this pandemic, which is why they turned to what most Canadians did, the CRB and other pandemic benefits. While we're going to be supporting people who suffered drops in their GIS and allowance through compensation payments, the Minister of Seniors' mandate letter also called us to look forward. It called us to assure seniors that we'd have their backs even more. Can the Minister tell this House how she's done that?
Honourable Minister for Seniors.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member for London West for her question and for her advocacy for seniors in her riding. She's right. We committed to ensuring seniors' eligibility for the GIS and allowance will not be impacted by receiving pandemic benefits. And this House yesterday, Mr. Speaker, unanimously passed Bill C-12. And I want to take an opportunity to thank every member in this House in making that happen. I look forward to seeing it make its way through the other place. Mr. Speaker, it's clear for seniors with the greatest needs that we will always have their backs. Thank you.
The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, 1.5 million Ukrainians have been displaced from their homes since Russia invaded in 2014. Now, as Russia amasses troops and armaments and threatens further invasion, the Ukrainian people need Canada more than ever. There is a looming humanitarian disaster in Ukraine, and thousands of Ukrainians are seeking refuge in Canada. We saw this government fail to protect Afghans. We can't let this happen again. Will the minister uphold Canada's responsibility to Ukrainians? Will the minister ensure humanitarian aid and better support for those Ukrainians who are fleeing violence?
Minister, or the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is no situation that we are more seized with right now than Ukraine and our solidarity for the Ukrainian government and the people of Ukraine. We have also been very clear that we are standing with Canadian citizens who are in Ukraine and any possible humanitarian crisis that could extend following a possible incursion. Right now, however, our mission is to de-escalate Russia's total disrespect for the territorial integrity of Ukraine. We will stand with the people of Ukraine, whether it's militarily, whether it is humanitarian assistance, and by helping every Ukrainian who is in trouble.
The honourable member for Spadina, Fort York.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I recently met with representatives from the undergraduates of Canadian research-intensive universities. They represent over 250,000 students from U15 universities that annually conduct $8.5 billion of research and contribute more than $36 billion to our economy. Like most students I meet with in Spadina, Fort York, there's a shared concern: crippling student debt. The average lifetime interest on a Canadian student loan is $3,000. Due to the pandemic, the government waived the interest for 2 years. Mr. Speaker, more must be done. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Employment, Workforce Development, and Disability Inclusion inform this House, when will the government permanently eliminate interest on Canada's student loans?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the honourable colleague for his question. Young Canadians and students must be at the centre of our recovery, and we're proud that our response during the pandemic was one of the largest youth support packages in the world. During the pandemic, our government waived the interest on Canada student loans and Canada apprentice loans for 2 years because we knew young people were amongst the hardest hit by job losses. That's why we are committed to permanently eliminating the federal interest on CSL and Canada apprentice loans, supporting over 1 million students. We're also committed to increasing the repayment assistance threshold to $50,000 for Canada student loan borrowers. We will continue to be there, Mr. Speaker, to help Canadians transition into the workforce. Thank you.
I'm afraid that's all the only time we have for today, and I just want to say thank you to everyone. I know this week has been very, very difficult, very emotional, very heated, and I just want to say thank you for today because it was very nice to see everyone respectively. Nous avons deux rappels au règlement.
We have 2 points of order.
B is rising on a point of order.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a great deal of respect for the member for the Northwest Territories, but I have even more respect for our employees, the interpreters. And the Board of Internal Economy ruled today on this issue, about the issue of rising in the House and not having the appropriate microphone. Now, we know that there are injuries that are happening currently. If members in this House are not equipped with the right microphone, and so, Mr. Speaker, just like we can't ask a question if we're not dressed appropriately, I say that we shouldn't be able to ask a question if we don't have the right equipment to protect our employees.
Député de New Westminster Burnaby.
The honourable member for New Westminster Burnaby is right. So when you're speaking in the House or from home as a member, it's important to have equipment that's approved by the House. In the case of the member for Northwest Territories, he worked with technicians in order to have a microphone that works for him. So if when we're in the House, we see someone who's not wearing a headset, please have some consideration for the person, and let's hope that the person has worked with technicians, as is the case here, that the person has worked with technicians to ensure that it's working. Now, if the interpretation stops or if there are sound problems, it is something to be dealt with. But at the same time, we may not want to make it public who has had to work with technicians to ensure they have the correct equipment. So to all members who are presenting virtually, do please ensure that your equipment is approved by the House. Thank you. Now, the honourable member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, there have been talks between the parties, and I think you will find unanimous consent to the following motion. Given the emergency of the humanitarian situation in Afghanistan, that this House asks the government to act with reasonable diligence to help Canadian NGOs that are working there and to ensure that they will not be negatively affected by the terrorist organization that is leading the government there, and that their status as an NGO is not affected, and to ensure that civil society can play a role in humanitarian assistance in the most threatened areas. Thank you.
Que tous ceux qui s'opposent.
All those opposed to the honourable members moving the motion will please say nay.
Non, nous avons pas de consent.
We do not have unanimous consent.
And now we have the thing that what we all look forward to every Thursday, the Thursday question. The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I will say I know that my honourable colleague from the NDP rose on the point of order. We're certainly sympathetic to the member from Yukon. The easiest way that we can resolve the situation with interpreters, Mr. Speaker, is to get back to normal parliament so that we're all here. So, Mr. Speaker, the debate we're having in this place, whether we agree or not with the invocation of the Emergencies Act, is probably and arguably one of the most important debates that we are going to have in a generation, at least my generation. And as the eyes of the nation are upon us, Mr. Speaker, I ask the Government House Leader what the business of the House will be. Thank you.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I just will start by